Welcome to Look Behind the Look, the celebrated podcast that explores your favorite looks in film, television, and fashion history. Through conversations with the fashion world's elite and award-winning hair, makeup, and costume designers on sets around the world, you will see and hear exciting tales from behind the scenes, career origin stories, and tons of advice and tips. I'm your host, Tiffany Bartok. Hey everybody, welcome to Look Behind the Look. I'm interrupting my own hiatus to bring you the Bear episode because the makeup department head, Ignacia Soto-Aguilar, who I love so much with all my heart, she and I have been texting about it and trading pictures, and so why am I not bringing you this episode right now? Here it is. We're going to talk about Jamie Lee Curtis's eyelash. We're going to talk about Jeremy Allen White's tattoos, why Will Poulter bought Brownies to set. Yep. And we are going to get into all the behind the scenes of your favorite show, The Bear.
I feel like I have to remind myself to breathe sometimes. Remind myself that the sky is not falling, that there is no other shoe, which is incredibly difficult because there's always another shoe.
Oh, don't freak out and go calling for mom.
Hi, Ignacia.
Hi.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We are back. So we've been working on getting this together forever because my son was graduating at the exact same time that the show dropped.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I went out with my mom, and my mom has had a stroke and she can't track a lot of shows. But I was like, I have to watch The Bear, all of it, tonight. So you want to do this? And she was like, I can't follow shows and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I told her the whole season 1, and I was like, so here we go. And I just tried it, and she was glued for the whole 10 episodes.
I know. I feel like there's it's such a when you describe the show to people, they're like, oh, really? Oh, because everyone imagines it to be so different because it's in the comedy category. It's how else do you describe it other than if you just sort of kind of know about it, you're like, well, it's a kitchen show, scripted. You're like, oh, that's sounds great.
Yeah. Kitchen show.
You're like,
oh, Chopped. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So we're watching it, and then I'm like, what am I going to talk to Ignacia about? Okay, wow.
How many episodes have we done now?
Well, this is our 3rd. So we have done your glamorous, amazing sick looks for claws. Then we did Bear season 1, and how we talked about how no makeup and how to really keep that going and work with an intimate set and everything. Because it was all in the Mr. Beef. But right. I never forget your face when I said, I hope you guys don't leave the restaurant. And you were like, you didn't make a face, but I saw a face because I was hyper tuned in, but you didn't do it, you didn't give anything away. But I was like, I have a feeling, I said to Jace, I have a feeling that they're going to leave the restaurant next season. No. And then
for sometimes I'm like,
wow. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So then when they came back, I was like, oh no, what am I going to talk to Ignacia about? Because everybody just looks, like cooks and chefs and And I guess we'll talk about, the days and what the days are like in the shooting and And then episode 6 came. So spoiler alert and all that good stuff. Episode 6 is mind blowing. I mean, the whole season it all pays off. It's fine that you guys left the restaurant. Nobody cares because being out in all of their worlds certainly paid off in all their apartments and going on these foodie searches. But what was it like coming back to such success? What did you notice was different this time?
That's the thing. I think that we were all kind of in shock of what the first season, the reception of the first season. And I think we were all, we're all connecting on social media in that period of time between season 1 and season 2. We were we were talking, you and I were talking about Jeremy having all these memes out now. And so during that time, we were all just sharing all these things that we were noticing. Because at first you think that it's just your thread because you're oh, okay. this, the explore page kind of knows what you like, so it's all bear stuff. But then like people that I didn't watch the show were like, wait, didn't you work on this? Because it's all over my feed. And I'm like, oh, this is like bigger than we thought, or that I was imagining it to be. So I think we were all kind of in shock, but like once we got back to Chicago, it was like we were our old crew, like on that day. And it's like, what do you tell Jeremy? Like after that, like what has he been through this whole time? He got a Guild Award, like just all the
Emmy. Had he gotten the Emmy yet?
Yeah.
And the Golden Globe?
The Golden Globe.
Yes,
the Golden Globe.
That's it.
Yeah. So like all that was happening, and it's like, well, how are you doing? Like, and Jeremy's Jeremy. He's just so himself, just like in awe with the perception of the show. And this is my read on it, and based on our conversations, like he's just so like, he loves the show so much, like the reception being so great is just kind of a bonus, because I think regardless of what the perception was, we're all just gonna keep doing it anyway.
Right.
So yeah, no, Jeremy, like I would be asking like, so when you met so and so, like, how was it? And he was even like starstruck about some of the people he was coming across, and people complimenting his performance, which like how amazing is he? So
yeah.
It's so cool to get the stage of his career, just witness everything, and everyone else too. Io, everyone. Chris.
I mean, she's everywhere. Like every time I turn on the TV, she was just in Joan is Awful last night, and like, she's just working so much. And Evan, like, oh my God, he's really getting his due. It's incredible.
Evan, like I love that this season had so much Evan character development, because he is so funny but also intelligent. Like he is so not what the Richie character is at all. It's so funny like to know him in real life and then watch Richie and how well he plays him. Like he's like he like bakes bread at home in real life. Like he's like just such a kind, soft soul. And Richie's just obviously none of those things. But also
in episode 7, I mean, who didn't cry when he busted out singing? Like my cousin is actually a chef, and he produces. It's not producing when you work for a restaurant, but that's in my head. That's what I call it. He like arranges for the financing in a lot of Chicago. For the restaurants. And so he's obsessed with the bear, of course. And he said this second season, like the purpose that was just driven into was like so relatable for him. And the chaos made him feel like he was at work, you know what I mean? And he appreciated it. But then the second season, like, that episode brought him to tears. And like, it was just like, wow, this is what we go through, even universally.
Yeah, like the film industry is such a good example too. I mean, as you know, like it's such a crazy environment full of, aggressiveness and just like, there's not a lot of sugarcoating happening, but we all care so much and we love each other so much. So it was crazy, watching the dynamics in the kitchen and also kind of looking around at your crew and being like, oh, this is kind of we are together.
Completely. Yes. That was a directly relatable. Totally. Mm-hmm. And I've also been stuck in a freezer. No, I have not been stuck in a freezer.
Who has it?
That is my biggest fear though, when I was like waitressing. So episode 6, let's get into it. It's fishes. It's incredible. We didn't know Jamie Lee Curtis was going to give the performance of a lifetime. Tell me everything about how this came to be. Was it first shot, last shot? The reason I love talking to you so much is because you understand filmmaking, and like that is such an essential part to this show's success. And you have like this extra level as a makeup artist to like really do the storytelling through makeup. And so I just cannot wait to talk to you about how this all came together.
Well, first of all, could you please be my PR person?
Yes.
No, so so the show, so we get all the scripts at once. That's what's really great because he it's all written before we go into the show, and sometimes it's things change, but the essence of the show is there. So I knew that there was going to be a flashback episode involving these characters that were very complex, and because of the success of the show, I think I think Chris' phone was blowing up, and it was really cool when it all came together. But before it came together, I remember it was Allie and I, Allie.
Yeah. Allie, the hair department head.
Love her so much. Her and I, we got our text saying like, Chris wants to talk to you guys. And we're like, oh, it was like day one. We're like, oh, wow.
Oh, no.
Good. And we get there. And it was, we hadn't seen really Chris one-on-one. So that was really nice to see him again. And, we all hugged and he was like, okay, so this is what we're doing. And he starts to, speak about the Donna character, who we all already knew from the scripts we had. And he reveals who it is. And we both just kind of like, wait, what? That's who's coming. And like, and there was a board in his office too. And the board didn't have names. It just had like, I don't know, maybe I'm remembering it differently. So I'm sorry, Chris, if this is inaccurate, but I remember kind of having like these code names for people. And I was like, so Jamie was the top one. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like, maybe if I can guess the last names in the last one, I'll figure out this whole thing. I'm forgetting. And I think he was like kind of holding off because, contracts weren't done yet and everything was still working out. But we get the Jamie
and where in her Oscar race is this, Ignacia? Where in
this is, I think I'm trying to remember. No, the Oscars were happening like that, like a week later, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like the Oscars weren't happening yet. She hadn't won the Oscar.
Wow.
Because I think my introduction email to her was congratulating her on a very recent Oscar.
Got it. Okay.
Beginning, and then just kind of going into like character traits and makeup choices.
So she played it after the Oscar win? She played it?
She did. She played it after the Oscar win, but she took it before the Oscar win.
Okay, cool. Amazing. Oh my God, I have chills already.
I know. It all just kind of, and I know, and it's weird because like even as I'm telling you this, like I don't think I've said these words out loud before. So I'm like, oh wow, this is like a cooler story than I thought. Because I'm like listening to it, I'm like,
wait a minute. I was actually just working the whole time and didn't realize that this was going to be a historic making TV history. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So it was really, obviously we walked away, Ali and I, just like, what is going on? This is incredible. Like, do they know that it's us? Like, they could literally have anyone they want at this point. Like, should we?
You're who they want.
Yeah, it's, because there's obviously like kind of like an imposter syndrome that happens too. Same room as like these insanely talented, A-list, ensemble. And, so then once we got into the character development, character building, we had the notes, of what Donna would be like, and just having those discussions with her was really fun. She was so involved. Chris is so big on just, having those conversations before people even are on set. So by the time that Jamie and I were talking, she already knew like she wanted the red nails and what the character's whole vibe was.
Okay.
I went in. I usually don't do this, but I did go and on her past roles and kind of looked at the makeup that's already been done on her, and I was like, okay, I think this character just needs to be a little bit harsher. Not harsher. That's the word, but she really tried, and she planned to get mad already that morning. Like, so it's kind of like she sets up this situation where like her nails are going to be in the way, and like all these things were just going to aggravate her, just to kind of have this like to fulfill the prophecy of the day just going to hell, right?
Wow.
Like, I mean, that was my take on it, and I think that was so beautiful about this episode, is that we all kind of got to like put our own experiences into it. So like that's my read, and other people may have different reads on her character, or my interpretation. But so it started with that, and then we got, every time we got an email from casting, it was like, who's it going to be? Because you open that email and it's like the picture of the actor as a department head, you get these emails. So Allie and I would be like, we just got a new email, and we'd open it and it would be like, oh my gosh, like Sarah Paulson, what? Like Olivia, like just like freaking out. It's so funny because I like scroll through my photo bucket. Like, what? How old am I? My phone. Oh wow. My photo album, and like I have all these screenshots of like these emails that like Allie and I would send each other back and forth.
Of course.
But yeah, no, I think and that's the thing too with Chris and the way that he prepares for these shows, that the show he like gives enough information to the actor so that they could play the characters themselves. Obviously, it's a very heavily scripted show, but there's enough room for every actor to add their own interpretation of the character so that they can feel really connected. So, I would have a conversation with Chris, but then I would have a different conversation with one of the talent coming in, and they would have a different idea of what the character was. And because we're setting the tone and we want them to feel identified with it, Chris would always be like, oh yeah, that's makes sense. Because he was always so welcoming of everyone's ideas. Like he picked everyone very specific to the character. So like Sarah, it's Sarah, like, and it's so funny, like even meeting Sarah Paulson in real life, like, you watch her on TV and she's always like these very like put together, just, and I'm not saying that she's not those things. I mean, she is
right. Yeah,
but she's very like, and in real life, she's like the funniest, most kindest, like loose, like likes to play. And I like fell in love with her. And I'm not the one that did her makeup on that episode because we had everybody that day. We had, obviously, so I had to hire extra people, and so lucky Chicago is, full of super talented makeup artists. And I had, I think maybe like 6 people working that.
Okay. Oh my God, how crowded and crazy. Oh my God.
So crazy.
Oh my God. How many days did you guys shoot this episode?
Let's see. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 days, maybe 3 days in the house.
3 hard days.
Yeah, because we did the Jamie scene in 10 at the end.
Okay.
And everyone was gone by that point, so she stayed an extra day to do that.
In episode 10, that Jamie scene. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So
now I've heard a lot about from the Everything Everywhere All at Once team that Jamie had a backstory for her character. Did she have a backstory in this one too that she presented to you about her like nails and things, or how did that conversation go?
Yeah, no, she did. Yeah, her and Chris had already had all those conversations
ironed out.
It got to me when she was explaining her character. We were just kind of back and forth about ideas, and we got on the same page really quickly because it was like, oh, I know that, like, we all have Aunt Donna,
Yeah.
So I know exactly. And what was so cool too is she went and got her nails done before. We went through colors and we picked the perfect color. And like when she came in, she already had like the nails, and she had a perfume. Oh, I wish I remember the name. I like meant to text Allie. I'll text it to you.
Okay.
At some point, I'm gonna add like a picture of it in here.
Okay.
But she had a perfume that she like imagined Donna wearing, and when you walked in the house, it was the craziest thing, Tiffany, like walking in and like you could smell her perfume. You can smell the parsley smell that you smell when you go to like your aunt's house. Like it felt like you were 12 and this was your family. And you were like, I mean, it was so intense just even being in there. It's not just the editing, like that's literally how it felt.
I loved how we've all had that Christmas, and like, I mean, I don't know if my mom will even watch this, but I'm sitting there watching it with her and I'm like, you're not putting it together that we've had this Christmas. She's
mom.
She's like, what's wrong with her? What's wrong with her? I'm like, I don't know.
Right. You're like, if you don't see it, like at this point, you just don't want to explain it.
Let's just let it go. Yeah. But she,
what was I going to say about Jamie Lee? Talk to me about, let's get into the thing that everybody's talking about is her lashes. And how everybody's like, this is genius. Whoever let that stay there is a genius. That was you. So what happened with this?
Okay, so that day, so we did this makeup super early, and because of the way that Chris shoots, we do the makeup, and then they all go to set, and then they rehearse for a few hours. It's very theater style, the way we shoot
cool.
things. And we're shooting like 10 pages a day, like in one day.
Yeah.
So because he wanted this to feel like realistic, he wanted it to feel like everyone family, and everybody came in with that understanding. So we would come in, do the makeup. So Jamie would come in the morning and get her makeup done super early before having to go to set and just like get lost in the character, because it kind of takes away from the character if they're coming into straight to rehearsal. They come get their makeup done, and then there's that. So the way that Chris was shooting these scenes, he just would let them do whatever they wanted. On top, obviously it's a scripted show, but he wanted them to connect. So they would get pulled hours before we would start shooting. So like this would be, I don't know, let's say like 8 a.m. So, and then we would start shooting maybe at like 10, 11 noon.
Right.
And by the time that we would start shooting, I mean, she was so in that character. She was Donna, that it was so already so tense by the time you get there that like and to like touch up feels disrespectful.
Sure.
Because you're like, okay, I already sealed it this morning, we're good. I would probably go in and just smudge a little bit more depending on what stage or what part of the scene we were on at that particular moment. But we did the lashes because because the way that the show is edited, I knew that these flashback episodes were going to be a little bit less saturated. They were going to have a little bit more warmth to them, so we weren't going to have saturation from the kitchen that we normally have. So I wanted that lash line to look a little bit thicker, so that it would. So we did lashes, and I mean, we're 12 hours into the shoot, and I've touched her up, obviously, we have lunch and things, but whenever we were doing that scene, Chris did the take a few times, and at the end, I mean, I like, because I would watch her do this, and I'm like, oh,
of course. Oh, right. That was her thing.
But I was like, okay, well, if she pulls lashes out at this point, like, it doesn't matter. This is what's happening. Right. And there's a take, because if you notice, like, she's kind of like, her hair is kind of like covering her like this. She's over, and then she looks up, and the lash is sitting here.
Yeah.
And I look at Allie, and I'm like, my career, that's it. I'm done. This is like the take.
Because you thought Chris was going to, because what you're playing out is that Chris is going to be like, who had eyes on this lash? Now this is the take I want to use. And now who had eyes on this and let this happen? Right.
Right. I mean, like, Chris is Chris, like, he would never be upset, but like, we all care so much. Yeah. And we were also invested in this being like the most amazing thing ever. So like, I see it, and my makeup brain, it's like, oh, well, that's not good. But then my film creative brain was like, oh, well, maybe this works. Like, and that's what I was hoping Chris was seeing. It would, and I look over at him, and he just kind of goes,
okay.
And I was like, well, that could be either he's like this, no, or don't touch it, right? And so I was hoping it was the second one.
Yeah.
So that ends, and it's so cool because she's such a pro, sitting here, and then she looks, kind of does this at the end of it, and it wipes away, so the continuity is flawless. And then Chris calls, moving on. So, and then there's just so much going on. I don't even have time to go to Chris. And Chris is so busy. Like, what am I going to go? Like, so about this last shot, like, I don't, let it, we'll fix it in post if it's a problem. Right.
Right.
Fast forward to watching it and seeing that they picked that take, because there were all their takes that were incredible, and fully incredible. I mean, she nailed it every time. It was in the most insane thing.
Oh my God, to see that.
I know. It was pinch me, please,
Ooh.
the whole time. And then I see that they picked that take, and I immediately messaged Chris on Instagram. I'm like, it's the LASH take, like, okay. And he goes, the LASH is everything, all caps, and that was it. So, okay, so he liked it, and it just worked out so perfectly. I mean, this was 13 hours into a shoot of untouched eyes, so it was the makeup gods were on our side that day.
I love it. I mean, since it has been picked up by tons of accounts and on Instagram, people comment all the time. I'm like so beaming with pride. They're like, whoever did this is amazing. Whoever let this be, you know. And then, you know, it's been my friend Justin drew it, like he's an illustrator. It's amazing.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, he did all the animation for our movie about Kevin O'Quan, and then he's like a fashion illustrator, and so he loves any pop culture things that like are important to him and his creativity. He illustrates, and I saw that one, and so I tagged you on it, sent it to you. But he I was like, if Justin recognizes it, then this is going in some kind of movie museum for makeup for sure.
I know, and I debated. I mean, I wasn't gonna lie about it, but I was like, should I just like tell people that this was not a plan?
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
So it's so great to like embrace that these like happy mistakes can mean
100%.
You know, instead of feeling like you have control over everything, which I think goes against the whole idea of the show. The show is let it happen. And
you know what? That's the lesson. And another person who's not as professional as you and who doesn't know as much about filmmaking, literally, I mean, I can see it happening, would have been like, sorry, makeup, stepping in. Like, can you imagine? I mean,
can you imagine like feeling like the LASH position was big enough for it to matter, like in a Jamie performance that level? Right. Like, absolutely not.
We would be reading about a murder.
Oh yeah, it would be. Yeah, this would be a whole different podcast. It would be like my it would be in memoriam. But yeah, my God. So no, that was like a really amazing. It was actually a lesson for me because I also have that moment of like, I need to jump there. Because that's how you're trained, you know. You're trained in photo shoots. I mean, the photographer, it could be top photographer shooting. Like if you see a hair up, like you just like jump in, the photographer gets upset, but it is what it is.
Yes.
I would never do that on.
It's all about making those decisions in your profession. How did you make Carmy look younger? What was this? Because I know it wasn't a long flashback, but like there were things like Abby Elliott, of course, looked totally different. We'll talk about that. But like Jace notably thought that Jeremy looked younger. And like, I wondered if you did anything about that, or if it was just maybe some of his behaviors that sort of like made his face look more innocent. It was not as hard.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a lot of acting.
Yeah.
I mean,
probably, right?
Acting, his like demeanor was a little bit more
softer.
I mean, he's always an introverted character, but yeah, he was softer, and he had his brother was around, so
right.
I mean, it's kind of like how we all go home and we become those 12-year-old versions of ourselves. Yes. I think played that so flawlessly. Yeah. But with Carmy, with Carmy's character Jeremy, we do a lot of character. We have a lot of character choices for him. Scars and hectic kitchen days. His eyes have maybe a little bit more of a tired. Some paint, color work to kind of make it look a little bit more, because he's just, so beautiful. Like it's really hard to make him look stressed. But most of that is his acting. But on this episode, because we thought, okay, it's 5 years ago, he already went to Copenhagen. Okay. But he hasn't been, a huge restaurant chef yet. So, let's kind of, he does have one of the tattoos, the snail tattoo right here. But he doesn't have the finger ones yet, the hand ones yet. So we did think about those things, like how old would these tattoos be? When would he have gotten those?
That's cool.
Because when we did the flashback episode on season 1, I don't know if you remember.
Of course,
they were in the kitchen scene, and he had no tattoos there. So that played as before this. So these are all little things that we talk about, but like it's not explained, and
Uh-huh.
it may not matter, but it's just we love putting on everything.
That's not true. There are Reddit threads everywhere, totally breaking down his tattoos, and you know it.
I do. So yeah,
Amazing.
so that was it. But yeah, it was just like a moisture. He had moisture on his face here. I mean, I didn't deconstruct his face.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just Jeremy moisturized, and
Fresh Jeremy.
yeah, just regular Jeremy.
And then Abby, how did you decide to make her? Oh, one thing I wanted to ask, and I don't know if it's mean, but like, tell me about the pregnancy. Is there a real pregnancy? Did you do the pregnancy? Was she pregnant in the flashback? Tell me about Abby's pregnancy ness.
So Abby was pregnant through shooting.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh wow.
I know. And so she's like the most beautiful pregnant human.
Oh.
Like this, I mean, like even just working the hours she was working, I was like, I would not be in my feet right now if I was this pregnant. So it was really cool because like her wardrobe was a lot of the Maddie line, it was like a more baggy to the first few months.
Right.
And then, I think there may be it makes sense, like the progression of the pregnancy in the current times. But when we go to flashback, I feel like the wardrobe was just chosen to be a little looser to distract her. And I think the way that they were framing it. So yeah, she was obviously, her character wasn't pregnant in the flashback. But it was in the current
she
times.
was.
And
okay.
She was. But I don't know. Her and I had conversations about that. And I mean, that's not my world to like, go into the character development parts, but it's how I decide a lot of things too.
Yeah, so, it is your world.
Yeah. So we would talk about those things, and we were talking about like just how dysfunctional her family is and what would be like her problem, right? But like she's like a caretaker. So like so if her weight fluctuates then like that could be something. Right? Like what's the one thing that you can have an issue with but still take care of your family if you yourself have addictive tendencies, right?
And how about the hair color? How did you decide that she would have a different one?
Well, that was Allie, and they had those discussions, and I love what Allie did because obviously, the first thing you think of is like, how are we going to get it from that to blonde? We have to shoot blonde tomorrow. But this week happened in a time where she was going to have a little bit of time off after that week. So Allie planned it perfectly to have her hair colored.
Okay.
Like that whole week. Yeah. And then they went back to the blonde before shooting. That's Allie. She pulled, like, that was incredible. Because I was thinking, I was like, I wonder how many people think this is a wig because they get so close to her.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
It just looked so perfect.
Right. And then what about Will Poulter's tattoos? Was there a story? You're like, Will?
He's like honestly like the sweetest. Like as soon as he walked in, he like made all of like my motherly stuff come out. Like, well, because I have a son that's 15.
Yes.
But like immediately I was like, Mom, I can be your mom. It's just so sweet. And he had already discussions before him and I talked with Benny Shields, who is also the tattoo artist that designed the images, the tattoos for Jeremy. Right, Carmi. So he already had invested so much time with Benny, giving him like, because I mean, he has like a nurse here, and he wanted to honor his mother in real life. This is not the character Will's character. It wasn't the Chef Luca story. It was he wanted things that were meaningful to Will's life.
Oh wow!
So he had like, Tabasco because his brother loves Tabasco, and he has all these memories with his dad eating fish and chips. So he, put that in there. He had like his favorite football team, and a nurse tattoo to honor the women in his family who were nurses. And just even when he came in and like I knew those things, I was like, this is like the sweetest human in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I've always loved him so much. And like, I don't even understand how old he is because I feel like he's always 21. He's just never going to age ever.
I know.
I can't wait to see what we're gonna get from him down the line. Like,
I know. And he also like the first day we shot, he brought homemade cookies.
stop it.
I was this is a what? He came in and he had like a little like Tupperware container. He was like, "Well, I made these cookies. Do you want one and a brownie?" I was like, "Wow, you made both of those things?"
That's adorable.
Yes. And they're really good too. I had one, and I was actually doing keto like, around that time, and I was like,
no.
No, I didn't care. I was like,
Okay, yeah.
No, it was delicious.
Screw you, keto.
Seriously. Yeah.
And
no
you went to Copenhagen? You guys all went to Copenhagen? Or no? Did they have a team there?
Yeah, well, we shot that scene in Chicago.
Sure.
And so I think the only thing that was shot in Copenhagen was the exterior shots of Lionel, who plays Marcus, walking around Copenhagen, and a few of the exterior stuff. I just love, I like it. There's just so much left to. It's like a mirror that the show's like a mirror to everyone, and everyone, and the more specific that they got, like Chris and I had a brief interactions through the madness, and I even told them one time, I was like, the more specific that you get, it's like the more you hear, oh, that's my brother, oh, that's like the more specific that it is, the more people relate. And
that's so true.
Feel like you're not alone. You're like, oh, I thought this was so mine, this story. I thought that I was so isolated and feeling this way. But just knowing, and it kind of redefines the experiences in a way. Like, I think with Carmi, for example, in that episode of Fishes, when he's like staring at the cannolis at the end, and everyone is like, there's just chaos happening at that moment, and he's just focused on the cannolis. And later on, he creates a cannoli dish in his restaurant. Like, it's like he's trying to redefine this memory with a pot, and I feel like all of us in the Fishes world, when we're all there, we're all kind of like laughing and sharing stories and just seeing all this play out. And then it almost made our experiences, whatever people's experiences were in their life, be redefined, just because we were able to bond over these things.
So
it was a nice moment, a nice
it's almost like he was disassociating, right? But like then he found his way out, which was this beautiful way. And then when he retells the story to like 70% of the people, not Claire, but like when he retells it, he's like, yeah, I made this because we always had it at Christmas time. It's not like because my mom drove the car through the house and I needed to dissociate. And so I found these amazing cannolis.
Yeah, kind of trauma dumper, like people that like stop you on the street and you're like, hey, how are you? Well, my brother killed himself, and this not that guy. So.
And that was so interesting too, when they were cooking, when Ao was cooking and with him, and she didn't mention that her mother had died. She had like 3 opportunities to do it before, but he still blamed himself for not pressing her to, he said, I should have known this. But he did present an opportunity a million times for her to say it. So it's funny how they are familiar with these protections that they like, these little walls that they put up with each other, and they know it's on them to break through those walls,
Right. And it does. I mean, it would take so much to open up in a work environment. For any, and like Ashley Levy and I, for example, best friends. And when we're at work, this is maybe getting a little darker, but like we did a show one time during my divorce years ago, and I literally took lunch break to go and get sign the paper and come back. And obviously those like the things emotional drainage that comes with divorce, obviously it's existing, but like I didn't want to bring it to the workplace. And this is like my best friend, really. And I'm not really telling her what I'm doing that day just because we're in a work day. And then it wasn't until like later we're like, oh yeah, that day that I think it just came out. She's like, wait, you went and signed divorce papers?
Like, that's huge.
Back to work. I was like, yeah, that's just what we do, And I'm not saying it's right or if it's wrong, but it's
what we do.
it's just what we do. It's what we're taught to protect these vulnerabilities that may come back and bite us in the butt later if we, trust someone with something and they use it to hurt you. I mean, that's all trauma based. All those, you're taught that at work, and also you have your own traumas that may add that trust issue that you may have with anyone. But then again, I think it's okay. I think it's okay to be that way. Like, it just depends. I mean, like I use the term trauma dumping because there is some things where you're like are talking to someone and then they tell you like this crazy thing and you're like, oh, like I don't know how to respond to this. Like
you're like, especially as a makeup artist, you must get it every day. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, of course, like when someone shares something so intimate with you, you want to be supportive.
Of course.
Thing. And but it's also like a responsibility you're putting on someone. So I think having that awareness of who to share that with and who not to share with, then that's a skill.
Yeah, it's hard. I think the more you share about it, sometimes it lessens it with each blow. I mean, with each share, you know what I mean? Or they're trying to dissipate it maybe or something. I don't know. I thought about that a lot actually. Like why I used to like tell everybody everything. I feel like I was like making it less by doing that. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
it had the opposite effect because you're getting all these people's judgment and reactions.
Exactly. And it was kind of like that too. And even like when we were all working in that episode, like we were sharing experiences. We weren't going about things, but we were kind of laughing about the things we found familiar. Yeah. And there was like kind of like an unspoken understanding of like, oh, this is a very shared human experience. And how cool is it that we are all connected, Yeah, I think it's moments like you assume isolation is your truth, but it's just a temporary, like devastating encounter with like only one part of the human experience. And that was the biggest for me, how connected we are and how fiercely we love and bond, and you are held and surrounded by deep love, even if you need to be by yourself for a little bit when things are happening, even then. So it was nice.
I think we need to know if anybody was injured in the fork incidents. Did Mike ever really hurt Bob Odenkirk or anyone else?
No. So these forks were like plastic forks.
Okay.
Yeah, they were in the back. So I was in the back with, so Jamie, this was all in the stage. So we did the house things at an actual house.
Got it. Okay.
The kitchen stuff and the living room stuff was a house, but the dinner scene, we did it in the stages.
Okay.
So I was standing outside with Jamie in her starting point just to refresh her, the running mascara, because she had just seen with Jeremy.
Refresh her streaming tears. Yes.
Yeah. I was sitting there with like my eye drops and all the things. And I was sitting by the forks the whole time because the forks were next to me. They were so cool. It was, I know that, I think there's a video going around of how they made these forks.
Okay.
There's a mold that they used and they poured, I think, silicone and painted them. And they look, I mean, obviously when you're throwing them, you hear the kind of the chain sound, all, sound effects.
Yeah.
These forks weighed nothing.
Okay, good. Oh my God. It was unforgettable. I mean, I hope we get more of these family dinners, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It left so much room for growing the story, like the cousin Sarah time. How, are we going to go into that? Like when Carmine, goes to New York, or
he does go with her.
Well, I think that's what's
being alluded to. Yeah, being set up.
He's like staring at the cannolis, which is the same area standing with Sarah.
Yes.
Having that conversation, and he was staring at that.
And then John, how is she related to the family? And that I watched it like 3 times and still was unclear who the relative was. Is it Sarah or is it John?
It was Sarah.
Okay, she's related to Donna.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, and John Mulaney is Sarah's. And
best I've ever seen him. I mean, like, incredible.
John.
Oh my God, so good.
We're talking about John Mulaney. Well, both Johns are amazing. John Mulaney or John Bernthal?
John Mulaney. But yes,
Okay.
both are amazing. But just now I was thinking of John Mulaney.
Yeah, no, oh my God. He, like, that speech, he did it a few times, and he did it differently. But like, that's what was so great is like now watching it, it's like that was mostly his take on what the scripted stuff was. But he got every word. It's weird, like how they work. But like his pauses were so perfect, and
like, is he still holding the fork? And
at the end, he's like, and I hope he has the strength to put the fork down.
So good.
So good. And like, just even like Jamie during that speech, and she's like holding her hands and she's doing like the prayer thing.
Oh my God.
It's so fun. It's so good.
Jamie.
It was so amazing. Yeah, I can't believe I was there watching.
I know. And I just loved how she walks in and she's like, did I miss anything? What I missed? And I'm like, you've heard every word. Like, you're here for your curtain call, and here we go. And like, oh my God. It just is like, buckle up. Oh, incredible.
Like and they're just like, it doesn't matter. It's like, what is going on?
I know. And how can you be so selfish to not come into the restaurant? Just walk in, like, oh, I know. It's so good. It's brilliant. Brilliant.
Like, after, so the time goes by, and it's also, she's sober now in episode 10, and time has passed. 5 years has passed, and I don't know if you know, so when she hits the car through the wall, she gets hurt. So I was in the car with her because there was a blood drip from the the wheel, but when, like, we don't really see it because it happens on the other side. This side.
Right.
And later on, I did add a little scar. In 2010, because we were like, oh, that would be something that maybe she would have now.
I love the detail.
Scars on like her hands from cooking.
Nice.
Oh, Bob Odenkirk. This is a good one. Bob Odenkirk reaches out and he's like, I want Lee to have a tattoo.
Okay.
And we're like, oh, okay, well, what kind of tattoo do you want? And he says, I had a professor back in college or high school that had a tattoo that just said Lee on him. And I think that's what I want, because this character's name is the same. So I would want the same tattoo. So he flies in the same day, literally, like, he gets to set like 20 minutes before we have to have him on set. Like,
oh my God.
and the tattoo is not even really decided yet, because no one, I love about the show, but on those days, it's like, okay, we have to figure, like, we were like in a lightning delay. I have the tattoo printer in the trailer, and that was turned off because the lightning delay turns everything off. Yeah, we had lightning going on, like all these crazy things were happening. And for like 5 minutes, this printer is working, and he's in hair, and I'm printing the tattoo that he wants, because this discussion happened like the morning of, So I'm printing it and have all these sizes. So that did work. And you can see it at the Lee tattoo. I should post a picture of it.
Yes.
But I just loved how all these actors came in with these requests that would link them to something in their lives.
Yes.
And that was the priority that I had, was to, make those things happen for them. Io, there's a scene, I don't know if you noticed, when she's changing shirts, I think.
Yeah.
You know what episode I'm talking about, when she's changing and you see some tattoos on her back.
Yeah.
He came up to me and was like, I want, Sydney to have tattoos in this scene. And we discussed a lot of tattoo images and ideas, and I drew them out for her, and we did a whole back, but you only see right here. But that was really fun.
But that work that then goes unseen, it's so important. I mean, your value is undeniable in like anchoring the actors, and it's so important. And like, even if it's not seen, we all know it's there. It's just like wearing like a express pants, or like,
or like what he's gonna see. You're like, I know you're wearing something that makes you more confident, or makes you take on the day.
Exactly.
She's so professional. Io is I forget how old she is sometimes because she is such a
she's a baby, right?
Yeah, she's super young.
Wow.
I mean, she's an adult.
Of course.
Yeah, but she's just so just such a professional, so involved, so prepared. Chris, she was with Chris. She co-directed with Chris the Fishes episode because she wasn't in that episode, so she had.
Oh my God, amazing!
Right, I know, and I know that she's going to probably be directing. Actually, most likely, definitively going to be directing some episodes next season.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's so
awesome.
Yeah, she's going to be. She's something. She's so proud of her, and she got nominated.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I wonder if she'll get nominated. Wait, these nominations are for last year, yeah? Or this year? Okay, got it. Okay, yeah. So that makes we all know what's going to happen with that episode 7. That's going to be Evan's submission, and then the 6 is going to get everybody a nomination. I mean, but this is all next year. I can't wait to see how this cleans up. It's going to be a very exciting Emmy race for sure.
And wait till season 3 too. And I know phone's blowing up with so many people wanting to be involved because so many people relate to the story, and
100%.
especially during the time of the strike, and you kind of want to be like, because everyone's like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we fighting so hard? Like,
yes.
Whatever underappreciated feelings people have right now, be a part of an ensemble or like a show where everyone is so dedicated, more worried about the content being right than that's what we were all seeking, I think. And I think that's why so many actors are interested in this project, because I don't think that they're doing it for the money. They're just because it's
no
series.
Yeah, it's way beyond that.
It's just getting
I forgot to ask you about Olivia Colman. I can't believe I forgot. How was that day?
Yeah, that day. Oh, she is super sweet, lovely human as well. And
when did you find out that she would be Chef Terry?
A few weeks prior to the scene, and she was only there one day.
Oh wow. Okay.
Just to that scene, and she was done. It was like a masterclass on acting. I don't know what she's like, the Daniel Day-Lewis.
So she was doing the mushrooms forever, and like, okay.
Yeah, it was just so beautiful. It was like the most beautiful acting you'll ever see. Like, we're kind of staring at each other like this. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm like I'm learning so much right now about anything she's doing.
Yeah.
The makeup choices during, the current times, I talked about that, like it's a little bluer, it's a little more saturated. So I didn't want to go, obviously she wouldn't, as a chef, have makeup on, but lip tints were my friend.
Of course.
Series.
Makes perfect sense.
Mascara. So the makeup wasn't as complex on a lot of the women because nobody really makeup. But it's knowing,
you know what I mean? Like, I always say in situations like that, and better than anybody, that like the decision to hold back is very difficult for some people. I mean, you see on short films and stuff, like when they like get like their sister to like, be the makeup artist or something. And then like, they're totally overdone for their character. And it's a skill to hold back, and make those editing decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
But I think we talked about this during the clause. It's too, that for me, it's actually harder to go heavy than it is to go lighter. So this was like my show.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, I get to do like what I do on myself. Like just the breakdown of characters in the kitchen, and that's the fun part for me. It's the storytelling component of makeup, not the how pretty can someone look on camera, the lighting. That's the DP's job. Which, can we discuss how good the cinematography is on the show?
Insane.
Andrew.
Oh, so good. Everything, all of the filmmaking is just incredible, and all the storytelling. And I can't wait for season 3 and to talk to you again about all of the things. And I'll see you then, Ignacia.
I'm excited. That'll be our 4th show. We need to have a party.
Dude, I know. We need to have, I'll get you a pin. Or a members only jacket like Saturday Night Live.
Oh, that's awesome. Do that. Well, yeah, you need some merch.
Yeah.
Start. Thanks for having me, Tiffany. It's always so much fun.
Oh my gosh, always so much fun.
I feel like there's not enough time. Like I want to tell you more things, but I can't.
I know.
That's what I just thought of.
Yes, please do. I'll put them in here.
Look Behind the Look is a Vinyl Foot production, written by me, your host, Tiffany Bartok, produced by Jace Bartok, edited by Evan Rivard. If you're interested in learning more, find our video version on the YouTube channel, Look Behind the Look Podcast. There you can see rare photos and clips from our guests. And please follow us on Twitter at LookBehindPod and Instagram at LookBehindTheLook. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe. And tell your friends and spread the word. You can subscribe to us on iTunes or any podcatcher of your choice. Thanks for listening to Look Behind the Look.